I have as much authority as the Pope. I just don't have as many people who believe it. George Carlin. Good evening, everybody. Just before I start this live stream, at least the topic, just to let people know that my main YouTube channel again is copyright striked. It's back to back. The timing is very interesting because I think November 6th. Or something like that. I was supposed to be able to live stream again on my YouTube channel, but then I just got a copyright strike, or not even a strike. It's a strike warning and then a strike. But anyways, you won't be able to see any of these videos on my main YouTube channel. You may see it on my backup channel because it's not monetized. It has less exposure, and that's why I have a main YouTube channel that does have ads and all that stuff, and I also have my backup channel which doesn't. I want to see which ones they take down and which they don't, and it seems like there's a difference. Anyways, you can still even watch all the videos if you, I guess, go to LBRY or library. I'm sorry. All that information's in the YouTube description box. Okay. Authority. I've been wanting to discuss this topic for quite a while, and I guess to start off, we just have to go by the definition that Google has, and which is funny because when you the way I think of authority, the question I always ask it with authority is for whom gave you the authority to say that something else or they themselves are the authority, and that, you know, it's totally arbitrary. Like, what gives any dictionary to assume they know what an authority is? Anyways, this could go on forever, so let's not even worry about that. The authority that we see that Google returns is authority. One is the power or right to give orders, make decisions, and enforce obedience. Similar is power, jurisdiction, command, control, mastery, charge. 2. A person or organization having power or control in a particular, typically political or administrative sphere. Similar, officials, officialdom, the people in charge, the government. I think that's just so funny. But, you know, that's what a lot of people do submit their authority to. Etymology of authority, if you go back to Latin, is auctor, if I'm saying that correctly, originator or promoter. So yeah, if you're going to assume authority, you're going to most likely be the one who comes up with it, or you're going to be the one who definitely promotes it if you're not the originator. Latin auctoritas, Old French autorite, but basically you're the author in English. So the author, again, it's like you're the creator of it. So we kind of lost that meaning of what authority is. We placed it totally to be something forceful. You know, it seems to be a lot of the changes that we see in modernization is power, is force. At least force being the equivalent of what power is, but that actually isn't the case. We can have as people with as much force, let's just say, as they can, but sometimes they just don't have the power to do or change anybody, especially those who don't submit to them as authority. And there's just a lot of things that, like for me, when someone points to an authority, like in some comment, reply to a comment, someone will just link, right, to some article from .gov or some science journal, or to a news site or some article or whatever, and they go, they don't even want to explain, they don't even want to talk about it. They go, this is an authority. Go there, maybe you'll understand. But that's not going to change anybody. Although the change actually comes by mentioning to them any type of hypocritical stance that they have. Let's say someone replies to saying that there's science article, and this scientist who did some research on it wrote a paper, wrote a journal, wrote their, got their research published. And then, so they go, well, look, here's the stance. This is what science says. And then they don't realize, hey, that scientist that published that journal or that research, they went back on it and said, no, that it was clearly wrong. Because that was something a while ago, and that scientist obviously states in multiple instances and even in videos or something, more research needs to be done, blah 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 blah. But they're kind of going back, well, I guess my authority is in what the person did before, but not what they're doing currently, etc. Another case could be, my authority is in government. Go America. And then someone they don't want as president becomes president. They go, no, I ain't gonna listen to that, to that fella. And there you go. There's that hypocritical stance. It's like, well, yeah, I thought you put you submitted to your authority to the government, but now that you have someone that's in government that you don't like, well, therefore you're not gonna be obedient to that authority. So there's a lot of hypocrisy to it, but then there's also a lot of odd nuances. For example, let's take George Lucas in Star Wars. He created Star Wars. It was his creation. It may not have been exactly as he wanted to as he was making the film, as a lot of changes occurred, but still, it was his creation. Now, right, we would say, who's the authority on Star Wars? We would say George Lucas. Well, George Lucas sold his works to Disney. So Disney is now the authority of what is canon, what is not canon, or like the EU extended universe. So if you say, well, who's the authority on Star Wars? Well, now it gets complicated. Is it George Lucas? Is it Disney? Is it the person who's in charge of Disney? Who's the person who's in charge of Disney? That's in charge of Star Wars. Who is the authority? Well, it could be anybody, but basically, what we would say is you're going to have to look at it in different points of view. You're going to say, well, George Lucas had this idea. He says this, but again, he says, well, whatever he says, it doesn't matter because it's not his anymore. It's Disney's. And Disney goes, well, this is what actually happened. And then you've got the fans who go, no, we don't like what you just said or what you just did. We don't like your version of Star Wars because it's a lot different than what George Lucas wants. And we heard what George Lucas wants. So now it's about belief. So there you go. You've got this little nuance here as far as where are you going to place your authority? Who actually owns the I guess, who, the best way to say it is, who is the authority? Like, is it the originator or the promoter? And it gets complicated because now we have all these legalities. It's like any artist. It seems like every type of art has some form of legality around it. You've got any piece of song. Well, that song is owned by a distribution company or something like that. That song is no longer owned by the person who created the song. Is a song the owner of the writer of the song, like the lyrics? Is the one who first sang it, or the one who sang it and it became very popular, even though maybe someone beforehand sang it before? It gets very convoluted. And then you can have a lot of legal authorities, right? That say, well, we're gonna say this person, this entity is the originator, and they have the rights to it, and therefore they have the authority of what to do with it and whatnot. And of course, the person who or group, whatever, that was actually the originator, they get screwed over. So it's pretty horrible, right? But it does seem to be about where the most believe in it, or the most with influence. You could say influences it. Again, coercion, power, all this stuff is associated with authority, but doesn't necessarily make it an authority. Let us see. What I hear a lot about authority is the authority came from God. And then you're going to say, well, there's thousands of gods. There's many religions. So from which God, from which religion? And how does an individual know that that is the will of God, like being a prophet in the Western sense of religion? It's like, how do you know a prophet knows the will of God? It takes someone else that knows the will of God to know if someone else knows the will of God. And then you go down this little circular logic where it's like, well, I guess they're all prophets. Well, how do you know you're all prophets? You'd have to be a prophet to know that they're a prophet, So therefore, it's horrible, right? We got this idea of authority, and we got people who believe in authority, and you got people who just flat out, no, never. And it's funny. How is that? Why is that? That's just another little, I don't know, path that we can dive into. So if people want, you may join to talk. I do have Zoom on, which you can go ahead and listen. Now, I just want to move on. Let's say, oh yeah, right. Carlin, one true God. If I like that because by implying that there's one true God, then there must be many false gods. So is there one God, or are there many gods? Well, you can't say one true God unless there are more than one God, right? So therefore there are more than one there are gods. Therefore the religion that you subscribe to isn't really a monotheistic religion. Anyways, we can go on and on. The image I think I enjoy from Google is all these little associations with it. Power is always the first thing. And what is power? Is it through the use of force, coercion? Is it influence? Is that just another fallacy that's associated, that we associate with authority today? Is it the same thing? Because some would say might is right, but then we see, the biggest, the strongest, or at least the best fighter would be in power, but we don't see that. We see the people in power, they're old, they're pretty weak. They don't enforce whatever it is that they legislate or say. They have other people do it. So we don't see as force being power or authority. Someone has to believe what someone says and do it for them, and therefore that whatever it is that they dictate tries to be executed. So it's very, very interesting what people dictate as authority, and you get to understand a person and you can change them by understanding what they submit their authority to. So I guess if there was any goal, if I wanted to do, is just to engage them in trying to get them to understand that the authority is actually themselves. Because if you are adamant about something, like say some people are very adamant about Christianity or their religion, whatever it is, and they're adamant that there's no authority but that religion, or maybe the Pope, for Catholics, that's their authority. And anyone says anything else, nope. The Pope said this, he's my authority, therefore I'm not going to do anything. That right there, your choice is your authority, where you submit to, because no one else is going to change it, right? The only one who can change it is yourself. So that's what people don't realize, and you're welcome when I change your mind, even though you would say, no, you didn't change my mind. But your mind will be changed. Okay, so one of the other things that I do enjoy thinking about with authority is who, like, say you're in charge. You're never really ever put in charge. You always have to somehow become an influence to be put in place of authority, or how we consider authority today. Being in a position of say being in the government, right? In the United States, of course, you're going to have to run, and therefore, in order to be placed in some type of authority, you're going to have to go looking for it. No one will say, "Hey, you're in charge." It's like, why would I be put in charge? Why would I want to be in charge of anyone? It's like, no, right there, it's not going to happen. So therefore, you have to seek authority in a sense of authority being power. But since that's not what authority is, you're when you're put in charge of authority, you're basically put in charge of yourself. And how you decide what authority is how you're going to react with other people. So some people who is in charge of someone else, right? They may not do it the same way that someone else is supposedly in charge of you. I mean, if someone tells you to do your job the way that they want it done, rather the way you were hired to do it, well, what do you choose? Is it going to be your boss, or is it going to be you? And in the end, the choice is still yours, even though your authority figure, your boss, most people would say, well, yeah, I'm going to follow my boss because I get paid and all this other stuff. But at the end of the day, the choice is yours. You do it their way, right? Say things, it's not going to work too well, and things don't turn out too good. So who's to blame? Is it you or your boss? Well, no matter what, you're the one who did the job. You're the one who listened to your boss, so therefore you're in trouble most of the time. Now, if you're in some military, chain of command, it's supposed to be the same way, because the commercial industry is very much similar to that of the military as far as the chain of command goes. Not saying that that's the correct way, but that's just the way it appears to be these days. But still, the subordinate, the person who's not in charge, not the authority figure who executed the commands of their command, boss, whatever it is, even though their boss may be in trouble, you, as the person who executed it, are the one who is ultimately responsible. So therefore, what do you do? Do you always follow authority, or do you follow your own authority? Oh, and this work is convoluted because I always use authority in the definition of the authority definition that's given, but not the etymological version of what authority is. So sometimes I may have to just put it in like a hyphen or something, right? Authority definition or authority etymological. That just gets too wordy because now we have to differentiate all those. But yeah, it is something to always think about. It's why do you submit to that as your authority? And then can you think of anything past that? It's like, okay, so this authority said this, and I believe in that, but this authority said this also, but I don't believe in that. So is that really authority to you? Authority definition, sorry. Is that authority definition suit you? Is that a correct fit? Is it always going to be, yes, that's the authority definition that applies to you all the time, or just some of the time, or just once? Sometimes I listen to people, they go, yeah, everything that the government does, it's horrible, or scientists, all that stuff. But the one thing that is true, it's this, like climate change or global warming. Yeah, all the other stuff, no, I don't believe in that. But climate change, yes, I believe that's the case. So I always just laugh at that. And the scientists who are so adamant about climate change, they're the ones, still coming up with things that still contribute to climate change. They don't do anything else. They don't fight it, because if they do, well, it's nothing that they can change, right? It's like everybody can make a difference with their environment, make it better, but they don't. They say, well, once the authorities say force us to do it, then we'll do it. Well, the authorities that you submit to is never gonna do it, because they don't want to do it, and because they know that, well, you submit your authority to them, that they're not going to get any resistance from it. So therefore, it's just going to keep going. And whenever you see, here's the number one thing to always look at in terms of whether you should put merit in something or not. Something takes way longer than your lifetime to take effect. Global warming, the history happened hundreds of thousands of years ago, but it's gonna happen more rapidly this time. But even though it's rapidly, you're not gonna see it till you're pretty much dead. But your children and your grandchildren are gonna experience it, and then your children, your grandchildren, right? They come along. They go, well, I remember they're saying that we're gonna have the what's that thing in Seattle? The Space Needle's gonna be like 100 feet underwater, and by 2010, and 2010 comes along, it's nowhere near underwater. It's like, well, we made changes, so it's going to be in 2060. And 2060 comes along. Well, right, the changes in legislature and whatever. Yeah, it's going to be 2120 or something like that. They're going to keep moving the goalpost, and that always cracks me up. Let's see, another thing that that probably makes me laugh the most is the idea of gosh, how do I explain it? Gosh, it's in the same, along the same lines of the, say, global warming thing, right? Is there's always some sort of analysis saying, well, here's evidence, and it's just like the end of the world. It's like the end of the world, right? Every religion, science is kind of the same thing, and your authority on where you submit your authority on science. Here's the thing: do you submit it on the foundations of science, or the authority of those that publish science, right? Like, how, say, a scientist does a lot of great research, but every time that scientist tries to publish something, no one wants to publish it. The science journals don't want to publish it. Universities don't want to publish the research. Corporations, like news journalists, news media, whatever, no one wants to publish the research that you've done. And all of the research that you've done can be reproduced, and that's critical in science and scientific research, is the reproducibility of it. So, do you still put your authority in science then? Because obviously science isn't the one that's failing. It's your submission to the authority of those who are in charge of acknowledging, as scientists, it doesn't even have to be scientists, acknowledging some individuals' contributions to the research in science. And additionally, what is the end goal of what science is trying to do? Science is trying to make people understand the nature of this world, of any world, really. And so, is your submission to authority, again, the ideal or concept of science? The ones who are in charge of monitoring and publishing, editing and publishing, and contributing to the scientific research that's been done to better explain how certain things work in nature and whatnot? Or in the end, what all science is doing is getting you closer to understand how nature works, and therefore is your submission to authority just nature itself, the world, how things are, and therefore since you are part of that nature, you have authority. Your authority is just naturally given. When you are born, who has authority over you? Your parents, your government, the ones like the religious people that your parents may submit to. Who has authority over you to do with whatever they want? Most likely, you have no authority until you can stand up to whatever entity it is and saying pretty much no. It's like, I'm aware of the consequences of not listening or doing what you want me to do, but I'm gonna say no thanks, I pass. It's like, well, if you don't do it, well, just like my kids are one day gonna just say, no, I'm not gonna listen, I don't want to do that. It's like, well, then you don't get dessert. It's like, that's okay. I still don't want to do it. Well, you don't get any like pad time, like computer time or anything like that. That's fine. So you're grounded. It's like, well, I'm still not going to do it. It's like, at that point, it's like, huh. A lot of people would be very angry, but then I think for me, I guess to not be a hypocrite, I would say, okay, you know what? That is a very, very strong choice. How can I argue against it? Especially if there's reasoning behind it. It's like, yeah, so I just became, I was on a power trip or something. It's like, good call, right? It's something you can be proud of. So, it's very much like that. It's, where do I submit my authority? If you're asking me, it's like nature, I guess, which includes and extends to myself. That's kind of it, right? It's like I don't really have an authority. If someone finds out something about something, it's like, and I experience it, or if I look into it and go, sounds good, I think that's legit. It's in the end, it's like someone asked me, hey, can you tell me where to look for or who to listen to for this stuff? And I say, well, I read this, I listened to this person, I disagree with this thing, but I agree with that, but in the end, what I'm going to tell you is you could listen and read all these things that I've provided to you from what I've looked into, but there's a reason why I suggest these works, and the reason why is because of my personal experience, which is the end all of what basically makes up my mind. And I'm sorry to use all these euphemisms or whatever you want to call them, these types of words. I have to use the words that I have. So therefore, it's something that you need to figure out, and no one's going to figure it out for you. I could tell you exactly what something is, but it's not really that, because if it really was that, I would just say it's that. And that's where we get to very close to, I don't know what you would call it, Tao, Gnostic, spiritual, shamanistic, whatever it is. I don't know. It's those things that, well, I experienced this. I never read anything about it. I never listened to anything about it. Then something happened, and therefore I went searching. It's like, what just happened? What did I experience? And then I look and go, well, some people are saying this. It's not that. Some people say this. It wasn't that. And then some people said this, and I'm like, whoa, that's what I experienced. Now I kind of understand that there's some origin to it, some connection, whether it's true or not, correct or not, it doesn't matter. These individuals, these stories, mythologies, these works, whether it's film or in literature, these things pretty much describe it to a T. And it's like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. And then I read up more about these individuals, listen to all their works and all this other stuff, and I find out they've got no idea what the hell is going on either. But at least they're trying to figure it out and express it to others. And that's something that government refuses to do, religion refuses to do, science refuses to do. All these things that people put their authority to in this modern age, all of them refuse to partake in what these experiences are. And that always gets me as, well, what's connected to all these authority figures, authority control systems? Control systems is what I call it. And therefore, I really can't trust it, right? Because there's always some sort of agenda to those in power, or take the form of authority definition is that they want to stay in power. And in order to stay in power, you have to have people believe you have power, therefore you have to do what they say. And then, but once you get past that illusion, you realize they have no more difference in power than you. In fact, they probably have less power or authority than you, because if it came down to it, you would challenge their authority. They would back down because they realize the authority doesn't stem from them themselves, which many people who oppose authority set upon them do, because they have that inner strength. They realize, no, I'm not one. This is what they'll say. I'm not one to impose my authority onto you. I'm going to have this fellow do it, or these groups of people do it. And then you realize, well, they really don't have any authority. So and really the henchmen, all these others who enforce that authority figure that they support, they don't really have any real power or authority either. They will carry out some things, but then they're going to realize that they're in that same trap, which they thought they would not be a part of. They think that there's a hierarchy, that once they do something within that they're told to do, that they'll just advance in the ranks, and then they find out too late, no, that's not true. How come I never advance in the ranks? I'm supposed to. Or you advance in ranks and you find out you have less power than you had before, because now you've got new people who are in charge of you that are higher in power than the person that was higher than you at that time. So the idea of the authority pyramid that I see here, like many people think of, like in the occult or esoteric circles or Freemasonry, whatever you want to call it, they think, they're gonna make it to the top. When you realize there's always someone ahead of you, that pyramid is just everlasting. It just keeps going, because you're always going to be having someone more powerful in charge of you each time you rise. And you're going to have more people who actually have legitimate power, because they're the ones executing the powers of those above them. They're going to overtake you, and it's just this vicious cycle again. But yeah, it's all that. I think it's great. I think what's funny and interesting to note, when I had a conversation with C.G. Dolan, is that it appears that every mythology or religion, even some philosophies, state that the world is always getting worse, never better, but yet we always keep capitalizing what's making things worse into fruition. We keep putting the same types of people in charge, or slightly worse, but we always think that they're always better than they appear to be, and thus things keep getting worse. We keep forcing people, or chastising social social change. It's socially influencing people to believe in certain things, which most of the time people don't believe in it. Belief is never a choice. It would be easy if belief was a choice, right? If you believe in a certain religion, you're going to believe in that religion no matter what. If you had a choice, most likely you wouldn't believe in that religion. The only time most people choose a religion by choice is because some influence of theirs. Like, take Philip K. Dick. His wife says, hey, if we want to know, one of his wives, if you want to have any sort of influence around here, we better become Presbyterians or something like that, right? So he became Presbyterian, but did he believe in the Presbyterian religion? No, right? So it's the same thing. It's like, well, like I don't believe in religion. I don't believe in the holy days, holidays, whatever you want to call it. But my wife does. My wife had the very somewhat Catholic type of wedding. Celebrates all the holidays, birthdays, and I could care less. It's not for me. But so I go through the motions, but not really, because I don't really believe in it. Unfortunately, if I did believe in it, some things would be easier for me. Blind belief would be easier on many, because then they can just walk behind somebody, like marching, like you're in the military. You don't have to think. You can fall asleep. I fell asleep tons of times while I was marching. I'd wake up and I'd be in formation still. It's like, that's how just belief is. You just you don't even have to think about it. It's just muscle memory. Therefore, that's it. I mean, just think of, like, I don't need to know anything about this. If you're watching on YouTube live stream, probably the only one watching, Carlin. I'll bet you if I clicked on him, he has no videos. He probably has a couple subscribers, but somehow he's joined and just really wants to influence the Christian exoteric religion. Probably hasn't ever seen any of my other videos in the past, or he's just a Smurf with a different name, and all this other stuff. But yeah, it's like, where do these people come from? Why do they always want to monitor or watch something that they totally disdain? When I'm talking about things that are not of this control system of a church. What else could I say about authority? I would say it's not a it's not concrete. Authority is very conceptual. It's very biased as well, just like belief is. It's very biased because it has nothing to do with choice. It has sometimes you're forced, right? Sometimes, like, say, I don't want to, most people will say, I don't want to die. Therefore, I will listen to this person who and give them $10,000, otherwise I might die tomorrow. But then you never think about, well, if this person's going to threaten you with your life, well, he'll just say, well, the next day, he'll do it again. It's like, all right, you gave me $10,000. I'll let you live. Now, give me $20,000 by next week, or I'm gonna do something and kill you. It's like, when does it stop? Right? Eventually, you'll end up realizing, something doesn't add up right, and maybe it's not too late for most of you. This warning, I guess, of placing your authority or your beliefs come in hand, I guess. And it's it's I guess it's just a warning. I've got no stake in whether you abide by it or not. Most likely you won't. Most likely people won't even watch or listen to me. I could be right all the time. It doesn't matter, as long as you actually listen and you think for yourself, and then you'll probably understand. But if not, yeah, you're just gonna rote on about the same thing. It's like talking to an NPC. Unfortunately, I told people what understanding what NPCs are. Unfortunately, that got taken down, and the content was removed. So you may not know what an NPC is until you go to another platform where you can watch that video. But then you'll understand. It's like, well, you don't want to be an NPC, right? You want to be the actual player of the game, right? You don't want to be the one who follows the program. Otherwise, you're just an NPC. Once you stop following the program, well, you become the player. But then you got to realize sometimes you have to follow the script up to a certain point, because when you stop following the script is very important. How I can explain how that's important, I can't. Let's just say it's a surprise. Okay, so you'll have to choose whether you want to follow the script as the script has written, or follow the script by choice. Therefore, you can take control of how the script is going to be written on your own authority. You're going to be the originator of that script rather than following the script that was set forth. It's very much in line with, I guess, if we ever went into the Greek, whether there's free will or not, and of course, whether you have free will or not is a choice. And if you don't have the choice of free will, then you're not going to have free will. That's the beauty of free will. But that's never going to make sense, I guess. It's just like the oracle. If you believe in an oracle, whatever they're telling you, first you gotta trust them. You gotta trust whether the witness is true, and whether that has any merit on your behaviors that you're going to change. Like say, hey, you're going to save 1 million people from death, but the thing is, you're going to kill hundreds of thousands of women and children to do it. It's like, oh, I'm not going to do that. It's like, so is that going to happen or not? Most likely it's not, because what doesn't change is your behavior. It's just, no matter how good it might affect someone, numerous people or someone else, you're very biased as to what you will or will not do, especially at that moment and the moments in the future. It might be a little bit different if there was, say, some other sort of justification where it might change your mind. That's very difficult for many people to fathom. But if your moral ambiguity is very influential, yeah, then something like that will happen. There's always going to be something that's going to tempt you. You know, it's very much like if you want to go into the biblical stories of temptation. But that's also what keeps you around, why you're here. Because if there's nothing to tempt you, well, there's nothing to influence you to change your mind. Therefore, in order for you to change your behavior in ways that you don't want, well, life is going to throw things at you. Whatever you want to call this, life, reality, etc. It's going to throw things at you. But if you realize that it wants you around because it can't afford to let you want death by their hands, you know, it will give you what you want, whether you wanted it or not, just because you're testing things out. But that doesn't apply to everyone. Some people aren't testers. I guess I'm a tester. Some people are explorers. I guess I'm an explorer too in some cases. It's difficult to categorize, but basically it's like also passivity. It's like some people will just never initiate something, no matter what, and some people always will want to initiate something. Some people are just, depends. You know, they're gonna find that right time, the right opening, the right moment, and do it that way. So everyone is different, and I think what always kind of gets to me is this idea. I think it's the Slavic mythology, like the creation story and the gods or whatnot. There's this supposed deity that takes people's souls and just swaps it around. That's all this deity does. It's like, it doesn't create new ones. You know, very much like the demiurge, if you want to look into a Gnostic idea. You know, very much, you know, a couple of other types of deities within different religions and mythologies as well. But the idea kind of intrigues me, because imagine being in someone else's shoes, someone you might have wronged, right? It's like, well, why did this person do it to that person? You know, let's put that person into this other person's life that they supposedly ruined, and see what they do with it, right? And how they react, because it's gonna be interesting. Because what we end up finding is that this essence of individual, or whatever you want to call it, stays the same no matter which body and situation that they're in. It's like, huh, there's something to this thing, right? It's like one fun way to think about it is put say a heroic figure from a story. Put Luke Skywalker in the role of Bilbo Baggins or something, or Frodo Baggins, right, in Lord of the Rings. Put Luke Skywalker in the role of like Indiana Jones. Like, how would that influence that character, and how that what's interacted, the end result of certain story arcs. So, I mean, the potential is vast. Or even characters within the same story. Put Princess Leia in Luke Skywalker's stance. And the entire story revolves around Princess Leia confronting Vader, and that his daughter, or she's his daughter, and all this other stuff. So it's gonna be vastly different because of just the decisions that that person makes, regardless of situation, regardless of the reality that they're in, or fantasy, whatever you want to call it. You know, I guess the next thing, this is kind of long-winded, and I didn't mean it to be. So the next video I was thinking of doing is symbolism. It's very much authority. If you want to understand symbolism, you're going to have to create your own symbolism for whatever the symbolism is about that is referred to. Just very much like making up the definition of what authority really means. Authority definition, authority etymology, authority as far as what others believe to be, what others accept, what you yourself decide is, and therefore whatever. It's just you'll have all these content creators who are researching the same thing. They will never agree on symbology, because symbology is meant to be interpreted differently, because to symbolize something that's I mean, think of it. All right, it's like a snapshot in what we call time, right? Take any picture of you, right? Take any picture of you throughout your entire life that symbolizes you, the entirety of you in one picture. That's what a symbol is. That could be vast. It's endless, and different people can interpret it something else. It's like they don't experience it from your point of view. They only experience it from what they see. So whatever your memory is of that moment where that snapshot was taken in your life, that picture, someone else goes, wow, you look sad. It's like, well, I wasn't sad. That was the happiest moment of my life. That's why I chose that picture. And so the interpretation of that person is going to be vastly different from what the reality was, because it's just a snapshot. They don't see anything else. They don't know any of the other context. Therefore, all symbolism is just a snapshot of something that was experienced, and that doesn't give the entirety of what that experience or thing was. So when people put so much effort into symbology, again, it's just another vicious circle. But it's a fun vicious circle. It's a circle you can make non-vicious. It's a circle that you can have fun with, and that's all we're, I guess, here for, right? We just want to have fun. If you're not having fun, well, why are you still here? What's important to you? To have other people have fun? You just want your kids to have fun, your family to have fun? Yeah. But you also want to have fun. Otherwise, it's no fun making things fun for them. So it's if we want things to get better, we need to stop doing things and taking things so seriously when everything is not serious at all. Like if you have no money, you have no home, got no one you care about or you think cares about you. If for some reason, instead of dying, starving, whatever, you end up finding food, something to eat. You end up finding people who end up caring for you, that you end up caring for them. Life changes in a way that you don't expect, and you realize that you're actually having fun. And even though if you were told that was going to happen like years, if not decades before, like if you were given an oracle saying this is what's going to happen to you, you would probably go, no way, that doesn't make any sense at all. I don't believe it. And then it happens and you're like, wow, that really happened. I mean, are you going to explore? You're going to look into it, or are you just going to ignore it and say, just like science today, it's like, that's an anomaly. Well, we'll just move along, keep going, not look into it. It's an anomaly. That's what anomalies are. Stuff you don't look into because it doesn't fit in with the beliefs of the world or universe, whatever you want to call it. I always thought words were also funny because you've got universe and universities. Anyways, I ramble on a lot. Thank you for joining me. If you listen this long, I haven't been making a lot of videos because I just didn't feel like it. I don't have much fun in a lot of these videos, but I am having fun with this one. Hi, Kelly Lane. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope things are good. If you want to join me, just have a chat. I'm okay with that. I'm about to just log off. I know you care very deeply about the government situation, political atmosphere, and all that stuff, but in the end, it's also a big joke, I would say. A very bad one. Not to say that all jokes are funny, but bad jokes can be funny. So maybe just say unfunny joke. But yeah. Symbology is going to be next, which is pretty much non-symbology because it doesn't symbolize what someone else that you would take for an authority says the symbol is, right? So again, we've got this connection with symbology, and we've got this connection with authority, because symbolism for something doesn't mean anything unless you give the authority of someone else and merit to what they say the symbolism means. And then again, how do they know? Well, someone else told them about that. Yeah, no problem, Kelly. All right. Yeah, I was sleepy too, but just talking to you guys. Basically, I'm just talking to myself, talking to you guys. It's very. I don't know. It's cool. It's nice. But I do like having conversations with others. That way, I don't have to keep talking. And I think what sucks is sometimes when I'm actually having a conversation with someone, I talk too much. But I need to probably not talk as much during those times and leave it for these types of sessions. But the only reason why I talk so much is because I'm excited to have a conversation with certain individuals. Therefore, I want to talk a lot. But I realized I also want to share what they're saying, so you can enjoy it too, and not just because it's entertainment value, because it's value. Value is value, however way you want to interpret it. Anyways, thank you very much, and have a good night.